Hi guys, Angelfish Keeper here, and as you can see we have livestock in the marine tank. So this is my 90 litre marine tank, which is an Aquamanta 60 that has been set up with Biorock. So this is also an update on the Biorock as well, because we've had this for about two and a bit weeks now in this tank. And to be honest, the rock itself hasn't really changed. It's already purple, so you're not really going to notice that maturing kind of coloration that you would notice with, say, like a white rock, like tougher rock or ocean rock, which would gradually change colour over time. Most synthetic live rocks are already purple because they give you that mature tank look from the start, which most people want. And obviously with marine fish, saltwater fish, you've got to be very patient, and a lot of people aren't that patient and don't really like the look of the white rocks, because when they go through that transformation into live rock, basically is what is happening, the rock goes through like an ugly stage, basically, where it'll go brown before it starts to go purple. Whereas with an already purple rock, you don't really notice that sort of change happen. So it'll be interesting to see this rock when coralline algae starts to grow on it and all that kind of stuff, because obviously it's already purple, so you're probably not really going to notice that too much either. But that'll be interesting to see. We have got a bit of an algae phase going on here. It's actually, I'm quite impressed, because 2 and a bit weeks in, we're only just starting to get algae now, considering I've had no livestock in this tank, and I've had the Red Sea LED 50 cranked up 100%, not even on like acclimation at the moment. I had it on acclimation for about 2 days, where the light started off on like 30%. Now it's up to 100% power. Probably when I get my first corals in there, I'll turn it back down, because obviously it might be a bit too intense. But for this little pair of clownfish that we now have in here, they're absolutely tiny. They're probably about a month old. These guys are so small, but they're so cool. I've just fed them. They're definitely preferring the right-hand corner of this tank, unfortunately. They're not really swimming out and about, but that's probably because there's nothing else in there at the moment. So yeah, as I said, we've had pretty much no algae in this tank with this rock. Just a little bit starting to get on the glass here now. But I've tested the water. Obviously we've got fish in there now, so the tank had gone through its initial ammonia and nitrite cycle, 0 for both. I didn't test nitrates or phosphates, which I think is where this algae might be coming from. But to be honest, a lot of new marine tanks will get algae. It's sort of the maturing process that happens. All I could do there is just turn this light off for a few days, because we've only got fish, do a blackout, and then basically it'll starve the algae. But I've got a window literally just there, so that isn't really helping. I know it's not ideal, but obviously I've got the freshwater tank there, so it's just how it works in the room. We have changed one little bit of equipment though to try and help this, but I think I'm quite curious to wonder if it is to do with the rock, why I haven't had algae in the tank. Because obviously with this being the marine version, it does have trace elements and stuff in there added. But the rock itself is untouched by algae. There's nothing growing on this rock, algae-wise, which usually it would start off on the rocks and then go to the sand. Even the sand's pretty clean. There was a little bit of diatoms, but it's definitely dying back. There's still a little bit there where it's a little bit brown, but it's definitely not as bad as it was, but it hasn't made its way to the rocks at all. And they've had high intensity light beaming down on them from pretty much day one, from the moment it went in there. So I'm super curious now to get coral in here. Not going to rush it, because it is a new system, and corals do not fare well in a new system. Well, LPS corals don't fare well in a new system, but we have got the Dawson pump hooked up. I've been testing my calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, just to make sure that they've been staying steady. and they are. Calcium's at 460, alkalinity was at 8.5, and my magnesium was at 1440. So kind of the high end for the calcium and the magnesium. Alkalinity kind of bang on in the middle where I want it. So yeah, so when I do start to add LPS corals, the harder corals into this tank, should in theory fare quite well in here. And then it'll be interesting to see how they their skeletons will grow to this rock, because it's a lot more porous and a lot more I don't want to say jagged, but it is a lot more rough than most synthetic live rocks. The TMC Eco Rock that I have just over there, that's a resin rock, and that is fairly smooth compared to this. But to be honest, I have been asked how it would fare with like fish scales and stuff, and I don't really see any potential issues with fish harming themselves on this rock. I don't think it's quite that sharp. Although it's sharp, it feels sharp to us, I guess, but to be honest, there's way sharper things that can go into an aquarium. Like, I think this isn't as sharp as lava rock, sorry. I do not think this is as sharp as lava rock. I think lava rock, which I do have in the freshwater tank, is a lot sharper than this stuff. So I don't think you're going to have any problems with this stuff. It looks like it's going to be perfect for anemones and stuff to be able to root to get their foot in and anchor down. I'm not going to be putting anemones in this tank. They just don't do well at all in new systems, and they always find a way into your wave maker, and I'm just not risking it. Once they find a spot, they're usually okay. They'll stay there, but occasionally they can just freakishly move through the night, and you wake up and your tank is cloudy because it's made its way into the wave maker and chopped itself up. And I don't really want the anxiety of that, so we're going to stay away from anemones, and I'll be putting like torch corals in and stuff to anemone lookalikes. But that'll be down the line. I might, in a couple weeks time, once this tank will then be a month old, try a few soft corals. Soft corals do tend to fare a lot better in a new setup than what hard corals do. But just to be able to test something on this rock coral wise, we're going to probably go for some zoas, which are a nice spreading coral that should carpet over the rock. And we'll try like a Kenya tree or something like that should be able to anchor quite nicely to it. And then obviously down the line we'll get our euphyllias, Duncans and stuff to see how skeletons will attach to this kind of rock. Because sometimes on most of the synthetic rocks you need to use reef putty, which is to basically cement the coral to the rock to then let it grow. But looking at the rock, I'm pretty confident that you should be able to just wedge the coral in and it should be able to grow itself without needing to be stuck down. And then at least that way, if you need to move the coral because it's not happy, you can. You don't have to, you don't have to chip away at the rock or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to get some hermits and snails in as well. At the same time we get that coral, just to keep this sand turned over, because I want the sand to stay nice and white. And then that's pretty much it for the overall Biorock. It's doing really well. As I said, it hasn't got a speck of hair algae or algae at all on it, which is making me think maybe the minerals it releases is deterring the algae, possibly. I don't know. I did ask Richard, and he was even quite surprised that there's been no algae touching the rock or the sand really because of it. As you can see, there's a little bit of film on the glass, but that's fine. And yeah, we'll get back into the main guts of this tank. I'll go through everything that's now running on it. There's only one piece of equipment that has changed, but we'll just go through everything. So we're still running the 4000S DC wave maker. So that is running the cabinet. Just turn the lights on. I've had to put lights in this cabinet now. So there's the controller for it there with obviously the time. It's on a constant wave pattern. So you can see the blue line going up and down there. That's the actual pulse of the current, which, to be honest, I mean, with just the fish in there, we could have just a standard water flow constantly. But as I am putting coral in here, I want it to be random water patterns because that's what coral need to be able to feed properly. We've got our 4-channel Dawson pump, which is now completely primed, calibrated and ready to go. I've even got the Dawson channels ready with how much to dose. I just need to basically click the pump and press go. But obviously with no coral in there, I don't want to be dosing anything because it's going to make my levels go up and up and up and up. And elevated levels can be just as dangerous as low levels. So I really want coral to be in there first, and so they can start consuming it before I really want to start dosing. But I mean, for the first month or so of corals being in there, water changes will probably be more than enough. But Dawson pump is handy to have, and obviously that's hooked up to the 3-way Dawson container down there. So this air pump here is connected to the new bit of equipment that's in there. I say new, I've ran it on the old tank, I just kept it. It's the Aqua One Nano Skim 40, I think this one is. The smaller one, the larger one's the 90. So this is rated for tanks up to 160 litres, I think. This is a 90, so it's like kind of almost double, which is kind of what you want for a protein skimmer. I don't know how well it's going to do because the wooden air stone has broken and I've had to put a normal air stone in there, so it's not really giving as fine a bubble as what the wooden air stones do. So I'll see how it does with a standard air stone. If not, I'll buy a new wooden one, but that Fluval C PS1 was just doing absolutely nothing. Completely useless. So we took that off, put this on. I've moved the output of the ATO. It was in here, but when it was topping up, this nozzle was going underwater and I was just worried about a back siphon. So I'll put it into the wedge net lid, and that's a much better, seems to have fixed the problem. So the sensor's just there and it just shoots out there instead. And then Dawson container, Dawson outputs exactly the same, that hasn't changed. Lighting, Red Sea Reef LED 50, hasn't changed either. That's on about 50% of this time of night. Almost about to go off, to be fair. It goes off at about 8:30, I think. So it should shut off pretty soon. But I've just altered it for this video, so I'll put it onto manual for about half an hour just so I can film this video of the tank, and then after that I'll change it back and it'll just go off. And I'll probably leave it off for a few days just to kill this sort of film algae that I'm getting at the moment. But yeah, RO top off, collection cup now for the protein skimmer is just there. So that'll collect and it means I can go longer without emptying it. Obviously buckets, drums and stuff, the usual stuff. And yeah, that is pretty much it. There's nothing really much more to say. We've got 2 clownfish in there now. They've been in about a day. We are going to be obviously adding more fish and stuff in the next few weeks. Just adding things slowly, letting things settle in. But yeah, hopefully the next video on this tank, I don't want to do too many because there's nothing really changing. It is all pretty much the same stuff. And I don't want to really just make videos to make videos. I want to make sure there's something to actually update you guys on. Like this update, there is fish in there. So hopefully the next update will be when I get my cleanup crew and possibly a couple of soft corals to go in there and see how they get on. So yeah, next video actually after this will probably be on the tropical tank, because there's been a few changes in there. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Bye.